Picture this. You get a quick text from your boss. Swing by my office after lunch. Just those few words. And suddenly, your whole world feels like it's collapsing. Hundreds of scenarios flash through your mind. Am I being fired? Did I mess something up? What did I do wrong? Lunch is impossible to swallow. Your heart is racing and your mood is completely shot. Then you walk into the office and your boss just asked you to help with a presentation. Sound familiar? But what if I told you the problem wasn't the boss's message at all, but the story you immediately started telling yourself? What if there was a way to truly control your reaction to any event? Today, we are going to unlock a secret discovered by the ancient slave philosopher Epictetus. One simple phrase that can permanently change the way you see the world and grant you genuine inner peace. Get ready, because after this video, your own mind will stop being your enemy. Wanananan. Before we dive into the core idea, let's take a minute to travel back to ancient Rome. Almost 2,000 years ago, there lived a man named Epictetus. His story is, in itself, a masterclass in resilience. He was born a slave, enduring deprivation and cruelty from childhood. At one point, his owner, in a fit of rage, actually broke his leg, leaving Epictetus crippled for life. But even in bondage, he discovered something that no one could ever take from him: the freedom of his own mind. Once he gained his freedom, he rose to become one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, ranking alongside Emperor Marcus Aurelius and the playwright Seneca. His teachings weren't abstract theory. They were a practical system for surviving and thriving in a brutal world. And at the heart of that system was one brilliant simple concept that we are about to discuss. So, here we have it, the cornerstone, the very heart of Stoicism. It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments concerning those events. Let's unpack this idea completely. Imagine an event is just a neutral fact. Take, for example, it is raining. This is neither good nor bad. It's just water falling from the sky. But then, our mind, our inner judge, steps into the arena and starts issuing verdicts. One person thinks, fantastic, rain. The air will be fresh and my plants will thrive. They feel immediate joy. Another person thinks, oh no, rain, my picnic plans are ruined, and now I'm stuck indoors feeling miserable. They feel disappointment and sadness. Notice this, the event is identical, rain, yet the emotional reactions are diametrically opposed. Why? Because these feelings are not caused by the rain itself, but specifically by the judgments, the evaluations that each person assigned to that neutral fact. This is the first step toward true freedom, realizing there is a gap between the event and your emotion. And residing within that gap is your superpower, the power to choose your judgment. Let's take a deep dive into the concept of judgment. What exactly are we talking about here? In Stoic philosophy, a judgment is much more than just a thought. It's the story we construct around an event. It's the label we instantly assign. It is fundamentally our interpretation. Think of the actual event as an empty canvas. The judgment is the paint we use to colour it in. Take this example. Your friend hasn't responded to your text. That is the objective fact. But immediately, you might paint this picture. He's ignoring me. I'm not important. Our friendship is clearly finished. That image will instantly trigger hurt feelings and serious anxiety. Alternatively, you could paint a completely different one. Maybe they're just busy, or they haven't seen the notification yet. They'll get back to me when they have time. This second picture preserves your calm. Judgments are fundamentally mental habits. We are so quick and so frequent in slapping on the labels of good and bad that the entire process becomes invisible to us. The Stoics urge us to slow down, to pause, and consciously look at these labels before they adhere to our reality and begin to dictate our emotional state. So, where does our suffering truly come from? Epictetus claims it is born from the futile struggle against reality. We suffer when we demand that the world conform to our precise expectations. When we scream at the rain, demanding it stop, we aren't just looking foolish. We are actively causing ourselves pain. We suffer when we rage at a traffic jam, as if our fury could somehow make the cars move any faster. We want the world to be different, but it simply is what it is. This collision between our desires and unyielding reality is the ultimate source of frustration, anger, and disappointment. The Stoic doesn't attempt to change the world through sheer force of will. He understands that this is an impossibility. Instead, he changes the one thing he can control, his own judgments. He doesn't say, "This rain is awful. It absolutely shouldn't be happening." Instead, he says, "It is raining. How can I best utilize this time?" This is the pivot point, the transition from a suffering Don Quixote tilting at windmills to the wise master of his own life. Let's look at a classic example that every city dweller faces, a traffic jam. You're sitting in your car, running late for an important meeting. The line of vehicles in front of you isn't moving. That's the event. It's an absolutely neutral fact. Now let's look at the judgment calls. The first automatic judgment is, "This is a disaster. I'm going to be late. My boss is going to kill me. My day is ruined. I hate this city." What emotions does this trigger? Anger, stress, helplessness. Your pulse quickens. You start honking, maybe even swearing. Your mind and body are essentially at war with reality. Now let's try a different judgment. Yes, I'm stuck in traffic. That's a fact. I cannot change it. I'll send a quick text about the delay. And now I have unexpected free time. I can listen to an interesting podcast, catch up on an audiobook, or just breathe and relax. Can you feel the difference? The traffic jam hasn't disappeared, but your internal state has fundamentally changed. You've shifted from victim mode into control mode, control over the one thing you actually have power over, your perception. This simple idea, the power of changing our judgment, unlocks an incredible shift in perspective. It means we literally become the architects of our own emotional landscape. If our initial judgment about an event is making us miserable, we have the power to fundamentally restructure it. Say you lose your job. The immediate negative judgment is, "This is the end. I'm a failure, and I'll never find anything better." The result? Despair and total apathy. But the alternative constructive judgment says, "This is an unexpected pivot. Yes, it's tough right now, but this is my chance to find a job I truly love, or maybe even launch my own business." The result? Hope and unstoppable motivation. Now, this isn't about fooling yourself or pretending everything is wonderful when it clearly isn't. It's about actively seeking a constructive interpretation, one that actually serves you. Ask yourself these questions. How else can I view this situation? What lesson is buried here? What hidden opportunity does this event hold? Simply asking these questions often loosens the grip of the negative judgment immediately, opening the door to healthier, more productive emotions. That is the essence of mental alchemy, transforming the lead weight of difficulty into the gold of wisdom. The foundation of this entire system lies in a core principle of Stoicism, which Epictetus termed the Dichotomy of Control. Like all genius ideas, it is remarkably simple. Everything in the world falls into one of two categories, things that are within our power and things that are not. Within our power are our thoughts, our judgments, our desires, and our actions, essentially our entire inner world. Outside of our power is virtually everything else: the weather, the economy, the past, other people, their opinions, our health, and even our own lifespan. According to the Stoics, happiness and tranquility arrive when we stop wasting energy trying to control the second category and instead focus entirely on the first. Getting angry at the weather is madness. Worrying about what others think of you is pointless. Regretting the past is counterproductive. All of these are futile attempts to control the uncontrollable. The only thing you can control 100% is how you choose to think about all of it. And that, according to Epictetus, is the only thing that truly matters. Let's use the Stoic dichotomy of control to address something we all dread: criticism. Imagine someone says something hurtful to you, or perhaps post a nasty comment online. This is the event. It is completely outside your control. You simply cannot force another person to think or speak differently about you. Now this is where your internal judgment comes into play. Option 1. How dare they say that? This is completely unfair. I must be a terrible person if someone speaks about me like this. This type of judgment absolutely destroys your inner peace because you are tying your self-worth to something you have no influence over, the opinion of another person. Now let's look at the Stoic option. Judgment 2. This individual has offered their opinion. That opinion is within their power, not mine. Does their criticism hold a kernel of truth that I can learn from? If yes, great. Thanks for the free advice. If not, it's just noise. Their problem, not mine. This judgment places an impenetrable shield between the outside world and your internal tranquility. You acknowledge the existence of the words, but you refuse to grant them authority over you. This isn't about being insensitive. It's about being invulnerable. The Stoics were true realists. They didn't view the world through rose-tinted glasses. Quite the opposite. They actively practiced something often called premeditation of evils or negative visualization. That might sound gloomy, but it's actually an incredibly powerful tool for training your judgment. The core idea is simple, thoughtfully considering everything that could potentially go wrong ahead of time. This isn't meant to cause anxiety or stress, but to proactively prepare your reactions. Heading to the airport? Take a minute to visualize your flight being delayed. Going to a job interview? Imagine they tell you no. Why do this? So that if it happens, your first thought isn't, "Oh no, this is a disaster." Instead, it's, "Yes, I considered this possibility. It's frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. What is my next step?" When you proactively prepare for difficulties, they lose their power to shock you. You essentially inoculate yourself against disappointment. You aren't expecting the worst outcome, but you are completely ready for it. This provides an immense advantage because while most people completely fall apart when faced with an unexpected problem, you meet that challenge with a prepared and tranquil mind. Epictetus also spent a great deal of time discussing the role of our desires and aversions. He taught that we become slaves to external things when we either crave them too intensely or fear their loss too deeply. If your happiness hinges on getting that new promotion, you've essentially handed the power over your own well-being straight to your boss. If you are paralyzingly afraid of getting sick, you're already suffering the effects of illness, even while you are perfectly healthy. The problem is not the things themselves, but our attachment to them. The Stoic solution, tempering our desires for what is outside our control and redirecting our aversions solely toward what is in our control, namely our own vices, laziness, and cowardice. Don't wish that events happen as you desire them to. Wish instead that they happen as they actually do happen. This might sound passive, but in reality, it is the highest form of proactivity. You are not fighting the current of the river. Instead, you are skillfully steering your boat within that current, regardless of its strength or direction. The famous psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the concentration camps, wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a gap. In that gap is our freedom and power to choose our response." This idea is a clear echo of Epictetus's teachings. Normally we operate on autopilot. Stimulus: someone cuts you off in traffic. Response: anger, shouting. Stimulus: bad news. Response: despair. We fail to notice this gap, this crucial space for choice. The goal of the practicing Stoic is to widen that gap. When something happens, you must hit the mental pause button. Take a deep breath, and before you form a judgment and react, ask yourself, what here is within my control, and what is not? Which judgment will be the most useful to me? This brief moment of awareness is the transition from an instinctual animal reaction to a conscious human response. Every time you successfully hit that pause, you become freer and less dependent on external triggers. You stop being a puppet of circumstance and become the master of your own mind. The language we use to describe events holds immense power. because it's the very mechanism that shapes our judgment. Consider two contrasting phrases. The first, "This is an absolute catastrophe. My life is over." The second, "I've run into a serious difficulty and now I need to develop a plan of action." Both might describe the exact same situation, say, being fired. But the first phrase is a death sentence. It paralyzes you and strips away hope. The second, that's a challenge. It mobilizes you and guides you toward finding a solution. The Stoics advocated for precision and objectivity in language. Instead of saying, "I had a terrible day," try saying, "Today, events occurred that I found unpleasant." This might seem trivial, but it's not. By stripping catastrophic and overly emotional judgments out of your speech, you train your brain to see things exactly as they are, without dramatic overlays. You stop pouring fuel onto the fire of your own negative emotions. Instead, you start seeing facts you can work with, rather than tragedies you can only suffer through. Let's bust a popular myth right now. A lot of people believe Stoicism is all about becoming an emotionless robot, suppressing every feeling and walking around with a stone-cold face. That is fundamentally wrong. Epictetus and the other Stoics never called for the eradication of emotions. Instead, they urged us to get rid of the destructive and irrational ones, like uncontrolled anger, paralyzing fear, or all-consuming envy. Where do these negative emotions come from? Simple, from false judgments. A Stoic still experiences joy, love, and compassion, but their true goal was to achieve a state they called apatheia, a term often mistranslated today as apathy. The correct interpretation is serenity or tranquility. This state means your inner peace doesn't rely on external storms. You aren't suppressing feelings. You are simply refusing to let false judgments create a hurricane where there should only be a gentle breeze. The Stoic goal is not emptiness, but rather a clear, calm mind capable of reacting rationally and appropriately to reality. One of the most powerful and practical tools the Stoics left us is the exercise of objective description. Whenever something happens that triggers a strong emotional reaction, try describing it as an impartial scientific observer would. Strip away all judgmental words, all adjectives, and all your personal interpretations. For instance, instead of thinking, "My sneaky colleague stole my brilliant idea," and presented it to the boss as his own, just to undermine me, try framing it this way. "During the meeting, my colleague shared an idea similar to one I had mentioned previously. The boss praised that idea." Feel the difference. The first statement is full of venom, resentment, and assumptions about the other person's motives you couldn't possibly know. The second is simply a statement of fact. When you look only at the bare facts, the emotional intensity immediately drops. The situation stops feeling like the end of the world and transforms into a solvable problem. Maybe it's time to talk to your colleague, or perhaps your manager. An objective viewpoint opens the path to constructive action, while emotional judgment keeps you trapped in resentment. A skeptic might push back here and say, "Okay, that philosophy works fine for traffic jams and angry comments. But what about real tragedies? The loss of a loved one, a severe illness, betrayal. Are we really supposed to call those events neutral?" That is a critical and fair question. The Stoics were not naive. They never argued that we should celebrate tragedy. Instead, they asserted that even in the darkest circumstances, we retain a choice. The choice isn't about avoiding the pain itself. That would be inhumane. The choice lies in how we respond to that pain. Will we allow it to utterly destroy us? Or will we find the strength to process the grief, extract the lessons, find new meaning, and continue living with dignity? The event, the loss, is beyond our control, but our reaction to it, our resilience, our courage, our search for meaning, that remains within our power. Stoic philosophy is not a painkiller. It is a tool for finding strength and dignity in the face of life's inevitable suffering. Another major source of our suffering is the tyranny of the word should. We are held hostage by an immense, self-imposed rule-book detailing exactly how the world ought to behave. Things like, people should always be polite, My boss should appreciate my hard work. The weather should be perfect on my day off. Or cars shouldn't break down. And every time reality fails to adhere to our personal rulebook, we are instantly flooded with anger and frustration. We get angry at the world simply for refusing to obey our commands. But the truth is, the world doesn't care one bit about our shoulds. People are rude. Bosses are unfair. The weather is often bad. The Stoics offer a powerful solution. Replace the word should with prefer. I prefer that people be polite, but I am mentally prepared for the possibility that they won't be. I prefer my car doesn't break down, but I fully accept that it might. This simple substitution removes the element of demand and resentment from the equation. You stop being a constantly dissatisfied judge of life and transform into an adaptable, flexible player in the game itself. It's crucial to realize that judging others isn't an isolated incident. It's a deeply ingrained mental habit. For years, even decades, we've practiced automatically slapping labels on everything. So, don't expect to read one article or watch one video and instantly transform into some unflappable sage. That's just unrealistic. Working on your judgments is a daily workout, a true form of mental fitness. Every time you catch yourself slipping into a negative automatic reaction, you are handed a critical opportunity for practice. Each time you hit the pause button and consciously choose a more constructive perspective, you're strengthening your mindfulness muscle. It will feel difficult at first. Your brain will instinctively default to drama and worst-case scenarios. But over time, with constant dedicated practice, those newer, wiser judgments will become your second nature. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and the ultimate prize in this race is genuine inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, offered another powerful exercise for shifting perspective. The view from above. When you're overwhelmed or gripped by anxiety over a particular problem, try mentally rising above the situation. First, look down at yourself, your home, your street. Then, ascend higher to see your city, your country, and the entire continent. Go higher still until you see the whole planet, that small blue marble floating in the infinite blackness of space. Now try to locate your problem on that tiny globe. How big is it on the scale of the planet, the solar system, the scale of eternity? This exercise isn't meant to trivialize your feelings or invalidate your worries. It's designed to help you see them in their true perspective. Most things that feel like the end of the world right now are, in reality, just a tiny speck of dust on the vast canvas of existence. This cosmic view helps you detach from immediate, momentary emotions and understand what truly matters and what is simply just noise and fuss. One of the most common sources of anxiety and worry is the opinion of other people. We fear judgment, crave approval, and constantly compare ourselves to everyone around us. For a Stoic, this is a classic, fundamental trap. What someone else thinks of you is entirely within their power, which means it is completely outside your control. Trying to please everyone is like trying to control the weather. It's a pointless waste of energy that ultimately makes you a hostage to other people's opinions. As Epictetus once said, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and dull regarding external things. True self-worth must come from within, from the quiet knowledge that you are acting rightly and living in alignment with your own core principles. What others think about that truly is none of your business. When you genuinely internalize this idea, you will find unbelievable freedom. You will be free to say what you believe is right and do what you know must be done, without constantly glancing over your shoulder at the judges around you. The practice of gratitude is a powerful antidote to toxic judgments. Our brains are hardwired by default to search for problems and threats. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. That's why we so easily spot everything that goes wrong and take everything good for granted. Practicing gratitude consciously shifts this focus. Instead of dwelling on the fact that your car broke down and negative judgment about the event, you can be grateful that you have legs to walk or that public transportation is available. Instead of getting angry at the rain, you can be thankful simply for having a roof over your head. By regularly, say, every morning or evening, recalling and writing down the things you are grateful for, you actively train your brain to form positive judgments. You start seeing abundance instead of shortcomings. This doesn't eliminate your problems, but it builds a powerful, positive foundation against which any difficulty becomes much easier to manage. Ultimately, what Epictetus was describing is the path to the highest form of liberty, not political freedom or financial independence, but inner freedom. Though he was a slave, Epictetus was freer than many emperors because he understood one fundamental truth. No one and nothing can force your mind to think a certain way. They could take his body, his possessions, even his life. But his capacity for judgment, his inner world, his citadel of reason, remained inviolable. Once you realize that your suffering is generated not by the world, but by your reactions to it, you immediately reclaim the world's power over your happiness. You can no longer be blackmailed, intimidated, or unsettled against your will. External storms may continue to rage, but within you a profound tranquility will reign. This is the brilliant simplicity and the unbreakable strength of Stoicism. This is a power available to every single one of us, right here, right now. All that's required is a choice. So, what's the main takeaway here? We often assume our biggest enemies are an awful boss, an economic downturn, or simply an unfair world. But, as we've explored today, our chief, most dangerous adversary is actually the unchecked storyteller right inside our own heads, the one who turns neutral events into full-blown disasters and minor setbacks into tragedies of universal scale. The genius of Epictetus's wisdom lies in the key it gives us to managing that internal narrator. It reminds us events simply occur, but the story we choose to tell about them, whether it's one of sadness, anger, or one of growth and resilience, that choice is entirely ours. This is the ultimate freedom, and it's something no one can ever take away from you. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. If the wisdom of the Stoics resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dives. Now, I have a question for you. What recent event triggered a strong reaction in you, and how do you think your judgment of that event shaped your feelings? Share your story in the comments below. Let's learn from one another. Until next time.